Tim, I don't get to do this very often and jump across the pond and talk to somebody from down under. So I'm really happy that you're here at the campfire
Uh,
today.
well, a big g'day to you and all your audience members. Super pumped to be. I've been really looking forward to this. Conversation between Mike Martin and Tim Thomas.
I think it's going to be fun. Normally, I would have the campfire going and the whole 9 yards, but it's just about around zero with the wind chill today. So that's not going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. No, she's hot as hell right now in Australia. I literally just got out of my ice bath, and you guys don't have that problem uh, in your current situation, location.
Right. Actually, like I was telling you in the back and forth, it's officially winter time because people are putting their rigs through the ice already. That's how I gauge when it's officially winter.
Yeah, nice.
But actually, the more I looked into your story and everything, I want to really have you talk to me a little bit about how being in the special forces taught you how important sleep really was.
Yeah, sure. Well, I sometimes it's the worst situations that the best things come from. Or if I'm talking to veterans, I'll say, you might not think you're special, but I bet you've been through some shit. And it's our job to turn that shit into fertilizer. And the stinkiest shit becomes the best fertilizer. It's actually there to help you grow and everyone else grow. Um, and if you come across anyone who's gone through the same shit, you can help them turn their shit into fertilizer in far less time. Um, but getting away from metaphors, uh, special forces was very much an amplification of sleep when you're dead. Go hard, do what you need to do, ignore, disconnect, basically disconnect from your own body, focus on the objective. So they didn't teach you anything to do with sleep. I was just one of those very goal orientated people that, do it, get the job done, you're bulletproof, sleep when you're dead. Um, and I was at this place of really deep fatigue in Afghanistan. And it was beyond physical. We'd lost men, we'd had limbs blown off others. And I'm like, what's the freaking point? I had this sense I was going to die. Um, my team was sort of turning on itself, arguing. And I'm like, what's the point? What is the freaking point? It's like I've got 2 cents worth of energy and I'm going to die. And so for a few minutes there, I'm just staring out into space. Bottom lip was in the dirt. And then this word came to me saying, Tim, if you've only got 2 cents worth of energy, you better invest that wisely. And we never got anything that would be sort of proper sleep. Uh, but before I went to sleep, instead of trying to just close my eyes and get to sleep, I would practice some breathing. So in the army, they teach you whenever you're using a rifle, you get a sight picture, you take a deep breath in, let it out slowly, and then gently squeeze the trigger. Uh, so what I did before sleep, and this no one taught me breath work. This is just instinctive stuff that my body led me to do. Instead of focusing on my right hand, I'd focus on my left hand. I'd breathe in and out of my thumb. I'd picture breathing energy in and out of my thumb, light in and out of my thumb, and then breathe in and out of my left pointer finger, and then a deep breath in and out of my index. And then before I started breathing light into all these different parts of my body, and it would drop me with whatever sleep that I had into a deeper place, and I'd wake up with 4 cents worth of energy. And I'm like, oh, that's good. So I invested that 4 cents, got 8 cents. And as the time went on, I improved the quality of my rest. I could start investing, back in my body. So I'd wake up and I'd do some push-ups or lift some ammunition crates. And I got to a point where I'm like, holy crap, I'm feeling pretty good right now. Even though there's a crap situation around me, I can control what's underneath my own skin. But then because I was part of a team, and I realized if my team's having a bad day, then I'm having a bad day. And I thought it's one thing to be strong within yourself, but you have to be strong enough be generous with those around you and give of your abundance, not of yourself. Because I noticed if I was just adequate and I gave to somebody else, um, I'm like, I've just gone from 100% down to 90% because I gave you 10%. You better freaking do something with that 10%. I couldn't be generous. I was like trying to get something from that. But if I say generated 500%, I could give away 20% a day and it wouldn't bother me, you know? So it was in those places of absolute fatigue, I sort of built myself up, and then I realized it's not enough for you to be built up. You have to do what you can for others, and the only way to do that is giving of your abundance and not giving of yourself. And so these days, my favorite saying, Mike, is I don't give of myself, I give of my abundance. So that's why, sleep is so very important because it charges up your battery. What would happen if you had a phone and it was never charged? Well, it would, when there's a few, 5 to 10% of battery life left, it goes into this, power saver mode. Okay, where it cuts down all the non-essential activities and just goes on base power line. And I believe a lot of humans are in that power saver mode. We're just sort of running off this bare minimum because we're not getting fully charged. And it's one thing to say that. Okay, it's one thing to say, oh, everyone needs good sleep. And believe you me, I could sit here for the next half an hour and tell you all the facts about why sleep is good for you. But someone who's tired is like, look, I know what it is to be tired. What can I do right now? And everything I do, Mike, I run off three P's. Being ex-military, I love my acronyms. Three P's. Everything's got to be positive, powerful, but the last one's the most important one, permanent. Okay, permanency is the most important thing because there's a lot of powerful and positive content out there, but who are they, a day later, a week later, a month later? Is there any permanency there? So what I find is if I can connect people into their breath, then they've got that permanency because that breath is always going to be there for them. I see myself as the guy that introduces you to the best friend you're going to have for the rest of your life. And I've sort of created a bit of a breadcrumb trail for that to happen. So when I got out of the defense and in 2010, I had undiagnosed PTSD. I didn't know it. It just, and I thought I was fine. I just had to drink half a carton of grog before I could speak to my then wife. And I call her my then wife, not my ex-wife, because I stand for a positive future partnership with her. And so a lot of alcohol and a lot of no sleep. I made the mistake of telling a doctor that I couldn't sleep, and I lost 6 years of my life to pills because that's what they do when you can't sleep. And my poor sleep wasn't the problem, it was a symptom of a bunch of other problems. So that's why it's one thing to talk about sleep, it's another thing to get good sleep because we're tough enough to live with I was tough enough to live with daytime imbalances, but at nighttime that's when they showed up. And that's why I was highly, because without any training, I set up Australia's most impactful veteran recovery programs. And the reason they were so successful, Mike, was because the success of the program was judged on how much it improved the quality of sleep. So the permanency of sleep quality. And we found with a half day activity, we could improve sleep for up to 9 days. And some people say that's awesome, but I'm like, people live longer than 9 days. How can we make this permanent? And that's why I withdrew from public life about 2 years ago after I got an email from a very high-ranking army officer in the Australian Army.
All right.
All right, so we just jumping back in. Yeah, I withdrew from public life a few years ago because I got this email from this very high-ranking officer in the Australian Army. I'd just done a workshop on this army base. I had hundreds of corporals and sergeants in there, and my subject was improving sleep, right? And it was breath work, how to connect to your breath properly to then have a good night's sleep. And we didn't just talk about it; we did some activities and hopefully we've got time at the end of this so I can show you something and the listeners something so they can have something right now. Okay. I don't want to be one of those guys that blah blah blah. I want to give people to take something home by the end of this. So stay tuned for that. But this is what this lieutenant colonel uh, said to me. He said, "Listen, I didn't attend the workshop, but afterwards, all my corporals and sergeants were coming up to me saying, you know, that was the first good night's sleep we had in up to 5 years." And he thought that was really good. I actually thought it was terrible because they hadn't slept in 5 years, right?
Right.
And but what he said next withdrew me from public life. He says, "Do you have any? It's good when you're there, but do you have something for them when you're not there?" And I'm like, "I've just, I've just failed my own P test. I'm powerful and positive, but I'm not permanent, you know." Um, and so I've spent the last couple of years creating, my company, Breathwork in Bed, which then has online resources. If you've got a phone and you can, you know, I've set up this little platform. You tell it when you want to sleep, when you want to wake up. We take care of the rest. And that's there to have people go to sleep with peace and wake up with power. Um, it's all those really powerful micro habits that highly successful people do in the convenience. They just basically fall out of your phone when you want them to. Because I can't do what you do, Mike, and I can't do what the people listening can do. But if I can improve your sleep, then you're going to do what you do even better. And, even if I'm being completely selfish, it makes a lot of sense. And I had to realize this in Afghanistan. It makes a lot of sense. Your survivability goes up when the people around you are functioning properly, you know? Um, and it's that access. People don't know how powerful this is. When I said I couldn't sleep and I lost 6 years of my life to pills, no one told me that breath work could alkalize my neural chemistry, alkalize my body, give me deep peace, create anti-inflammation. I got a lot of chronic injuries and I deal with all the pain with breath work. And what people come to realize, it's not a set of lungs we own, Mike. It's a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves. You breathe a certain way, you elicit a certain response. When I'm working with high school students, I show them how to breathe a certain way to focus for their exams, to get rid of the stress. When I'm dealing with corporates, I'm showing them how to do a quick reset. When I'm working with people who just want to sleep, there's another different way of, and it always amazes me how many athletes don't know how to breathe properly. So it's within that space that I've sort of re-engaged because I feel like I don't want to just talk to people. I want to give them a uh, easy access to the power of their own lungs, and it does need to be coached because breath work is something that's conscious and unconscious. We can do it consciously and unconsciously. And even though I'm a breathwork coach, I need to hear a certain coaching in my ear. Otherwise, I'll sort of drift off and lose track. So, because to get the medicine that's in there, you've got to breathe a certain way for a certain period. It's not just enough to sort of take one or two breaths. That's a bit like, taking an aspirin, licking it and putting it away. You need the right sort of dose to get the right response from your body. Um, does that answer your question, Mike?
Yeah, actually, it answers the question, and it also sets up a lot of different trails that we could travel down based off of. And you talk about breath work when, especially when it comes to sleeping. Like I shared with you before we got going, my introduction to meditation was, hey, do you know how to sleep? No. Me and sleeper, we're not even in the same vicinity. So then it was, well, why don't you try this meditation? And even though I fought it and I finally gave in and started doing it, which ironically, I've never meditated to go to bed ever since that. But it's helped me in so many different ways. And it was the breath work out of it that was like that first jumping off point. A lot of the time, myself included, and a lot of the people I've worked with that have sleeping problems, it's because we've built this disconnect around things. And we have kind of, along with that, built habits. that prevent us from sleeping. So it's a matter of changing.
It's not habits, it's culture as well, Mike. You know,
Exactly.
I only slept 3 hours last night. What's your problem? You know, everyone's doing it. It seems kind of normal.
Right.
Sorry to cut you off. I had to jump in there. I'm just agreeing with you, my friend.
It's all good. And it's like we got to retrain all these things and we got to find some simple, tangible point to start to plant that seed with. And a lot of the time when should turn somebody on to breath work, that's kind of the easiest way to get into it because we all got to breathe.
Well, it's funny. We've been breathing our whole lives because breath work isn't hard. We've been breathing our whole lives. What is hard about it is it's the most ingrained habit that we have. So to do anything differently is like, whoa. And that's why it actually needs to be coached. Otherwise, you're just going to go back to the way you've always done it. So if I could use a bit of a gym analogy, like if you're going to the gym and your bicep curl was just that, like 1 or 2 centimeters, and you've done that your whole life, it would be a whole other thing to actually raise and do the full range of movement. Okay. But getting to our lungs, most people, and you said this earlier, there's a disconnect. And the reason why there's a disconnect is we're so focused on what's outside of us that we lose connection from our own bodies. And most people shallow breathe. And I'm going to make a point here. I'm going to exaggerate something. If somebody came up next to you and went, shh, 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 what do you think they're about to do?
You get close to hyperventilating.
Well, they're freaking out, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So the medicine you create inside your body is that pump up and adrenalize, right? But if you're shallow breathing, you're telling your whole system you're in fight or flight. You have to be in disconnect. You're focusing on something else. All right. So if you saw someone going, ah, that's a whole other different energy in the space. Now, whether we admit it or not, we're always conscious of each other's breathing. That's why if you want to have some fun, go into a public place and go shh, 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 and watch how many people look. Because believe it, yeah, we're always tapped into that. So as we shallow breathe and we feel our body with the signal of you can't relax, you're in fight or flight, you can't relax, and you're feeding that in all the time, it's very hard to create a new habit. Okay, so at any time during this presentation, and I want to do this before the end, I want to show you and all the listeners how to completely relax your body within 3 breaths.
Well, that was actually where I was getting ready to go with this. I've been doing it in a lot of the appearances that I've been doing on other podcasts. I walk them through, one of my favorite meditations real quick. So I want to give you the same opportunity. I'm finding it's fun, it's cool, and it gives something of value. So have
Yeah.
at it.
Okay. Awesome. Well, the only prerequisite to this is make sure you're in a safe place, like seated, laying down, not driving, because you can get so relaxed in this, you can um, sort of almost go to sleep. All right. So it's going to be 3 breaths, but it's going to be 3 proper breaths. Okay. And this is only going to be hard because you've been breathing a certain way your whole life, however many years you've been around. So I've created a little way of doing it that'll help you do it. So all I'm going to get yourself and anyone listening is to simply, gently breathe in and then breathe in again and again and again and again. Do you feel that little bit of extra space opening up?
I do.
Okay, great. So it's normally up around here. So we're going to call that, for the sake of giving it a name, your primary, your secondary inhale. Okay. So your primary is where you normally breathe. Your secondary is when you breathe more in. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to breathe into the primary and then secondary inhale just in one go. Give that a try. Make it nice and smooth. Breathe in, then in. And just gently let that go. Now I'm going to show you something. Most people don't know, but in their thumbs and fingers, there's a turbo button. Okay. So we're going to push our thumbs into our fingers as hard as we can when it comes to that secondary inhale. So we're going to breathe in on our own strength, but when it comes to that secondary inhale, hit the turbo buttons and notice how that helps expand this upper secondary inhale. So you know what's going to, you good with that now?
Yeah.
Okay. So just breathe out and then start breathing in when it comes to the secondary inhale. Hit your turbo buttons. And just let that go. Now, did you notice hitting those turbo buttons open that space up a bit more?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit? Okay. All right. Now, I'm not putting words into your mouth. If it's not working, please let me know, right? Um,
Absolutely.
but what we're going to do now is juice that up even more, okay? Because this secondary inhale space, I don't just call that the secondary inhale. I call this the breath of possibility. We hold a lot of tension up here, and when something seems impossible, I'll hit my turbo buttons and make the impossible possible. And what we're going to do that by adding our chin into the mix. So think of your turbo buttons and your chin like a triangle. Okay. I call this my power triangle. And when I breathe in, I'll breathe in on my own. Then when it comes to the secondary inhaler, I'll raise my chin, look at the ceiling, and hit my turbo buttons. So you cool with that?
All right, let's do it.
All right. So just breathe out and then breathe in on your own. Hit your turbo buttons, raise your chin, look to the ceiling. Turbo, breathe in. Now I want you to hold it. Once you're at the top of your breath hold it and just wriggle your shoulders. Open up that space. Wriggle your shoulders, feel that space opening up, and then just let it out with a ah. Okay. How'd that feel?
Pretty good.
All right, so we're about halfway there because that's only half the breath. So what I want you to do is just make it nice and smooth, like it's like first and second gear. First gear in your car, second gear with your turbo booster in your chin. Okay? So
All right.
let's just do that together. Breathing in, turbo button, raise your chin and really open it all up. Open it all up. Suck the air in, push it around the place and then let it out with a little ah. Great. So we are halfway there because our chest, think of it in thirds. There's your middle part, okay, your upper part, and then there's your lower part down by your belly. And what we're going to do, I'll give you a demonstration and I'll just step back so you can see this. So we're going to breathe in, pull it up here, and then we're going to let it travel down, travel down, travel down, and we're going to stick our bellies out and put our hands on our belly and we're going to sort of push the air from our upper chest down to our belly. We're going to squeeze it there and then we're going to let out a okay.
All right.
So you're pressurizing it and you're trying to squeeze it out, but your mouth is stopping it and it's going
Right.
pulling it out like so. And this will you'll probably need a few goes at this. So don't there's no wrong way to do this. It'll probably come good on the third one. So so let's just do that again. Have your turbo buttons and your chin ready. Breathing in, open everything up. In. Really fill it up, fill it up, fill it up. Now hold your breath, move it around the place. Move it around the place. Let it fall from your upper chest through your middle chest. Let your head collapse down. Let your head collapse down. So your head's collapsing down. You put your hands on your belly. Feel it going all the way down deep. Push it down deep into your belly. And then let it out with a really super slow. Let your head fall down. Look at the ground. And we're going to do that 3 times because this is something new. The third time it'll probably start coming good. So breathing
All right.
in, Opening up, in. The bigger the breath, the better. Hold it. Move your shoulders back and forth, and then relax your body. Roll your chest forward. Roll your chest forward. Let your head hang forward. Let your head hang forward. Push it into your belly. Feel your hands on your belly. Hands on your belly down low. And then squeeze it. Let it out really slow. And then last one. Ready, ready?
All right, let's do it.
Let's make it extra big. Breathing in. Turbo buttons, chin. Really open up, lift up that chest, lift up that chest. Hold it. Let it sort of move from your upper chest through your middle chest. Let everything relax. Roll your head forward, roll your head forward. Down low onto your belly, down low onto your belly. Squeeze and let it out super slow. Under pressure. Slow, 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 slow. And just let your whole body relax, collapse down. You're completely supported. You're completely safe. You can keep your eyes closed or open. It doesn't matter. And just stay in that place for a second and let the chair that you're sitting on support your weight. Feel your all of your weight supported by that chair. So often in our tension, we don't allow ourselves to feel supported. It's like our tension is our own way of trying to hold us, trying to give us a hug. But it doesn't work like that. It's only when we let go of that tension that we can feel like we are supported and we can let our weight feel held. And whenever you're ready, just sort of pull yourself back into consciousness.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
And that was just 3 breaths, 3 proper breaths. And you probably, of those 3, you probably did one that was, you know, getting the desired result.
Yeah.
But imagine doing that for a minute. Imagine doing that for 10 minutes, an hour. You know, people ask me why I do 2 hours of breath work a day. I said, well, if you could do something that feels amazing and gives you everything you really truly want, would you do it? You know?
Sometimes the question isn't always would you do it? It's do you have the intention behind it, behind your actions to really put it together. Tim,
Hmm.
that was awesome. Before I let you go, you got to let people know how to get in touch with you, to work with you, what you got coming up, do all the self-plugging stuff.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So, if anyone has a phone, uh, Android smartphone, go to your Apple store, look up 3 words: breathwork in bed. Think breakfast in bed, but breathwork in bed. You can pull up the app. The app has a 28-day free trial. It is a subscription program because there's a bunch of bonus features in there too. There's community in there. There's also, some people when they use it to get out of fatigue, and that's good enough. Some people create powerful connections inside of themselves and they want to pay it forward. So we have a generosity news wall where you get to hear about, empowered and connected people in this world. So that is the model that we have. You can use it to help you sleep and get out of bed. Getting out of bed is absolute gold in this part. It saved me so many times, and it's particularly powerful to have a friend at 3 a.m. when you're up and your head's going a million miles an hour. If you can push that button, have your sleep, have your breath guided a certain way, and get back to sleep. Oh my gosh, it is an absolute godsend. And even the nights when I couldn't sleep, say between 2 and 4, doing breath work, just having that thing on repeat, it acts like this patch where when I wake up in the morning, I've got so much more energy than if I just stayed awake and my own head was going a million miles an hour with all the stress and stuff. Mike, I really encourage you, if you're having trouble sleeping, to give this a go, because sleep deprivation has an accumulative effect. Okay, there's you after one night's bad sleep, 1 week bad sleep, 1 month, 1 year, a decade. but quality sleep accumulates as well. You after one good night, a week of good night sleep, a month, a year, a decade. And it's when I'm working with athletes, I describe sleep like, quality rest equals quality performance. Your performance is like a pyramid. Top of the pyramid, you're kicking ass, you're making goals, you're hitting targets. But then at the bottom of the pyramid is rest, recovery, healing art forms. And if you can really dial into your healing art forms and widen that base, you're not going to age like other people age. Okay, because the 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 longevity of our performance is relative to the base of the pyramid. Even though I'm punching past 50 right now, I can still perform like I did in my 20s, but I have to widen out the base. I have to get really specialized in my healing art forms and breath work. Again, I was wrestling with a bunch of 20-year-olds last night, and they're often like, how do you keep doing this at 50? And I said, well, what you don't see is the bottom of my pyramid. I spend a couple hours a day doing breath work to alkalize, anti-inflammatory, cardiovascular, all that sort of stuff. So you don't hear about this sort of stuff, Mike, because no one's making money from it. And there's more money to be made from you when you don't see the power that's inside of you, when you get dependent on the power that was outside of you. Just like when I said, I don't know how to sleep, and they gave me 6 years worth of pills. I don't want anyone else to have that in their, as their experience because, yeah. So I'm just trying to say, you don't hear about this stuff. No one's making money from it. But if you just get on your phone, breathwork in bed, it will guide you to a whole new you. There's two completely different types of people in this world, and they're both you. There's you that's getting good night's sleep regularly, and there's you that's having poor night's sleep regularly.
Absolutely. I think, building these practices and really changing our habits are key when it comes to trying to make self-improvement. Tim, thanks so much for the time today, brother.
Yeah, likewise, Mike.